handful of folks from Letters Past and a handful of folks that represent Letters Future. And I think what kind of humbles me as I kind of see who was coming through the elevator doors tonight was that I'm reminded of a truth that was told me by an Italian when I was stationed in Italy in the early 90s. He said, whatever's the most personal is also the most universal. And, I kind of raced to a professional path, which was exactly the path that many of us are on. Quicker is better. Get it done, get it done, get it done. And I ran Salesforce.com in Madrid, Spain, for 3 years, and this duality was put right in front of my face. And in Madrid, this country where Spain, live the good life, live for the moment, long meals, long conversation, deeper thoughts. And in contrast, I'm the regional sales manager for Salesforce.com, a pre-IPO software company, and I've got a pipeline and a cell phone and a laptop, and this life of duality could not have been any greater because I had the pace and the speed of selling, and tech, and I reported still at this time to Mark Benioff, who was the founder of Salesforce.com and turned it into really an amazing company. And it's Friday afternoon. I am one piece in the ear, another hand over by the phone. I'm tic-tacking away on the laptop, and my son Blake, who's about 7 years old at the time, is up, and he's really holding me to a commitment that we would play at the end of the day, and he wanted to start that end of the day a little earlier, about 4 o'clock. And I'm doing what so many of us do. I'm operating and multitasking, and I'm partly listening. And I ask him, well, what do you want to do? He says, well, I'm thinking soccer or basketball. It's kind of nice out. We should do that. And I'm just prolonging the conversation to get my work done. And I asked them again. I said, well, Blake, it's kind of up to you. You pick. And he responded back, well, yeah, I kind of want to do whatever takes longer. And when you kind of have words that are so honest and clear and young, but no less true, you're caught off guard. And so that sometimes doing things that take longer kind of settled in, and I didn't act on that right away. Of course, I stopped everything and went and played. But career-wise, it didn't move me off my path, but it was a signal. And so the premise, someone asked me, as one of our early investors says, well, what problem are you solving with Letters? I said, well, I'm solving a non-linear problem. A linear problem is I can share a picture. A linear problem is I can connect through a job, or I can apply for an insurance loan online, or I can apply for an insurance policy, or I can meet a friend online. Those are linear problems, and they can have a linear solution. And I think Marta highlighted how the crowd everything today is perhaps making our ideas even more linear, because we're all kind of falling in line with just what we see or just what we associate with. And so the diversity of what we think about, or the boldness of our ideas, is perhaps being a little bit watered down by so much connectivity to the same people or the same ideas. So problem number one is, how do we kind of apply what lasts in humanity and make it marry successfully with the efficiency of technology? Because I'm a technologist first. It's how I make my living. But I also want to be a human being and have technology that perhaps shapes the world for my kids in a little more productive way. So when I first came up with the idea of letters, I went back, as was suggested earlier. Well, what was it about letters past that stuck? Why did we keep them? Why did we put them in a shoebox versus our folders? And even if you look at the psychology of why did we do that? Why didn't we put all our letters in our bills and our wills and our taxes and our statements, right? No one puts their letters in their folders. They put their letters in the shoebox because those words transcend the functional. So our folder system at home is really what became of our email. Folders and email, folders get stuff done. Letters and affirmation. A letter is something that someone wanted you to read, not just then, but they wanted you to read it 20 years from then. So I pulled back to a letter I've held on to for many years from my grandma. She wrote this on stationery from the Hotel Thayer. And for the West Pointers in the group, everyone knows the Hotel Thayer is where your parents and grandparents came and hopefully got a room to come see you. And my grandma wrote in May of 1989, the month I was graduating, "Be the man you've always been, and life will always be good to you. I cannot find a truer word, no sweeter to caress you, nor song or poem that is I have ever heard that is sweeter than God bless you. Graham." And my grandma never went to college. She raised 6 kids, but she wrote me over 100 letters while I was at West Point. And she wrote beautiful letters. So as I did my research, again in my own basement, I said, well, these letters first were kind of an affirmation, affirming something that they wanted you to know. Then, I don't know why anyone in West Point in the 1980s thinks they'd see combat. None of us did. But here we were. World changed quickly. And so I remember when a letter would come to me in northern Iraq, the letter was like a precious chocolate, a fine cigar, like the one Doug just gave me. You didn't just open it and pop it. You waited. You said, I'm going to absorb this letter at the optimal time. And for me, the optimal time was under mosquito net after 4. We just kind of gotten things ready for a night shift, and foxholes were all in good shape, and I could put on my Walkman, my cassette Walkman, for about 20 minutes, and I could lose myself in this letter. And I know all of us in this room have had letter experiences like that. And so those type of letters seem to be like a promise from another person that, you know, I'm still going to be here, and I still believe in you, and I hope you come home. So, you know, we move forward to 94, and I'm there in Madrid, Spain. I'm now out of the military. I'm trying to figure out what was it that Hemingway loved about Spain. The first thing Hemingway loved about Spain was the beautiful women of Spain, and I was blessed enough to have had my life turned upside down when I met Adi. But Adi and I met just a few days before I had to leave, and I came back, and we had a good 6 months of long-form, old-school letter writing. And similar to those letters in Iraq, when Adi wrote me a letter, I'd race home, didn't need the mosquito net anymore. I could open a cold beer, I could put my feet up, and I could absorb this letter like it was the best thing of the day, because it was. And what Adi's letters were, like many love letters in life, they're an aspiration. That what I'm writing to you in this letter today is something I want you to read 20, 30, 40 years from now. And that really was one of these, you know, we think about the time element of letters. It's not just the time to make it. It's the aspiration that someone has that you're going to keep it. So after 94, life happened. And life got fast and life got beautiful. and it got beautiful with Blake and Dane, my first two boys, and I got beautiful with my daughter Anna, and I started to, like many of us, have time constraints because it was about Little League and soccer practice and this and that, and these beautiful objects started to seem harder to find time for. But that's not the only thing that really happened. In parallel, I really got into software in '99 is when the wheel of technology took me in, and it would not let go. And I found myself, like many of us, responding to that email later and later in the day, reaching for the cell phone earlier and earlier in the morning, and we felt connected to something that was really asking us to respond and respond with high frequency. And, but hey, we all have to make a living, we make a job, so this was my job, and I made a living. When I was doing my research for letters, I started to realize that there were these signals all along that I was missing. And they became part of the design for the whole company. First thing was I looked from '99 to 2012 when I started work on letters. I started to recognize that indelible people in my life were starting to move on and past their mortality. My grandmother there, who was a beautiful letter writer on the left, and my wife's Adi's grandfather, Miguel. These two were the generation of doers, of thinkers, and of people who really would always tell you, enjoy it because it goes so quickly. And so one of the signals I started to really understand was that time is what is becoming scarce in all of our lives. Despite the time-saving promises of tech, who feels like they have more time? Every invention of tech was like, save time, buy a car, apply a loan, meet a friend, vet a date, take a picture. Yet time has become quite scarce for everybody. Indelible people who are gone, and then I'm experiencing indelible moments right in front of me. And statements like my son Blake made, let's do what takes longer, right? His sense of time was a completely different cycle than mine. And those were the indelible words of Blake. So then I said, okay, letters can't be about like nostalgia and emotion. As much as I would love this all to come back, this isn't going anywhere. And I was fine with that. I was fine with it because I said, okay, well, let's just shape this to create words that matter. And one of the things that, clearly Barb articulated, Marta and Rob, was what's really graphically portrayed here, right? We can see it. Quantity is up. Word proliferation is off the charts. Consumption of those words has not caught up. What that means is we have an impact crisis. Words are becoming so easily made and created and sent that they're also equally meaningless, disposable, and in many ways, the diversity of language is shrinking, which is part of our reason of why Indelible is a big part of our message for the year. So I said, okay, we're going tech and we're going old school at the same time. And in 2012, with strong convincing of my wife, Adi, I said, those beautiful letter experiences you used to put together, let's just do that for people. Let's give them first a web interface, which you'll see there, the first version of the Letters website. It's got the oak desk and it's got themes. And you know what? If on the left you want that letter stamped and mailed and hand addressed envelope, we will do that. And if you want it scented, and you want wax or parchment, if you want it in a card, we'll do that too. Because my wife, Adi, she can do anything with paper. She's amazing. She is amazing. I'm not amazing with paper. I'm horrible. But I'm pretty good in the middle stuff. So we said, all right, well, let's just like throw out a site. Let's convert the living room to a letters center. Let's field letter requests from anywhere in the world. And, on a local talk show in Connecticut, my son Dane are on there with a perky morning show gal about, the hyper caffeinated idea of using technology to save letters. And she was everything a local morning talk show host would be. So something really started to get interesting. Because what that Italian gentleman had told me, that what it's most personal is also most universal, surprised us, how true that was. It surprised us because we kind of started to be a little bit contrarian of rather than technology killing letter writing, how do we use technology to just make it happen again? And, along the way, we had Kelly Purdue and Rob Gordon, who's great without the mic. Out of real serendipity, I'm at Postal Vision 2020 in April of 2013. And I'm following Vince Cerf on the stage talking about innovation. And Vince Cerf is a well-known founder of internet technology and very established man. At his age of 70, he's the chief internet evangelist at Google now. And he spoke, and then I came right after him. And I came up with 4 things that Letters does. It's mobile, it's social, it's cloud, and it's postal. It's all 4. There should not, in a world of tech choice, there should not be a mandate that you have to write a letter on your desk. I can send flowers to people I love, and I don't grow flowers. I can send a basket of cut fruit to people I love, and I don't grow fruit or cut it. But there are people that do that really well, and I'm glad to have that service. And so we started to have this service offered, and really by September we were kind of stunned. It wasn't just US people that wanted to receive words, but it was people from Barcelona that wanted to write a friend in Brazil, or someone in Shanghai wanted to write a friend in San Francisco. So we really had an exciting experience of seeing these letters kind of go out from this little P.O. box in Collinsville, Connecticut. And then with mobile came, I think, the realization that most of the people who wanted the paper letter experience were sending it to someone of an older demographic. But the mobile letters were really moving very quickly mobile to mobile for the younger users. And there's nothing wrong with that. As much as I take these words and hold to them in paper, when my 16-year-old son writes me a letter and he picks a theme and he takes 6 minutes and he puts in his thoughts in completeness, I read that letter as well here as I do here. Because for Blake, that's how he wants me to read it. And it's also how he knows I'll keep it. A big part of this early stage of letters happened in late night work projects out in Brooklyn with 2 really good friends who were in the back of the room. One's a jazz musician named Stan Killian, and another one's a technology champion called Colin McCabe. And if I could ask those 2 to stand up, Colin and Stan, the both of them, these are Brooklyn guys. There are few things more lonely in the middle of your life than to be a founder of a new company and a new idea. It can be really lonely. And when you have folks in the city at that time, Stan and Colin cheering me on, making pizza, whipping up a video together, Stan playing the saxophone, it gave me some real soldierly comfort right here in New York City. And I'll always remember that, guys. So I want to end up of where letters has come from. And, as much as we love giving the postal experiences from the iPhone, I love just as much when I go into a school. I've been to 8 schools so far, some private schools, some public schools, and we do these letter boot camps. We go in and we go right on the device those kids are at, and we go here and we go here. So we're going to do something really uncomfortable. We're going to ask you to think, and we're going to ask you to write something that one day you'd be able to sign, that you'd really want to affirm. And this is really an uncomfortable thought for a lot of these kids, but as Greg alluded to, once you start to give them the tools, they will make letters happen for themselves. So I've been delighted by the acknowledgement that much like Instagram made pictures accessible, we really want to make letter writing accessible to a generation of people that might have not written letters otherwise. So back to the problem we solve. What lasts? And we picked this venue here of the Yale Club Library because it's a hall of words that have lasted in books, that were quality words and still are quality words, and they're still here for us today. And I want to ask William to come up and introduce our video and our orientation. 2013 was largely mobile to postal. How do we make letter writing accessible? 2014 is an evolution of our message. Even in digital, letters can be lasting. If the intent of the writer is that they want this to last, then that writer needs to pick the platform that has certain constraints. Twitter constrains you to 140 characters or less. Snapchat constrains you to the trash can, the Kleenex, right? The digital Kleenex, and that's fine. The world needs digital Kleenex, but the world also needs digital linen. And letters hopes to be digital linen. Those words distributed through the cloud, or distributed on a mobile device, or distributed here, can have the same permanence as the words on these books, if we want it to be. And so I represent the start of letters. My lovely wife represents the soul of letters. This team here in the back represents kind of our next step in letters. And that next step is really about meaningful words, lasting words, and words that people want to sign. And on next Thursday, we're doing the press release on the features of our app, which haven't hit the market. And those features are quite interesting. And I'm going to ask William to come on up, if you would, William, and give us a look into the 2014 branding. And that'll take about 5 minutes, and then the bar remains open for conversation. If you haven't had your indelible portrait taken in the Hall of Books to our left, it's a black and white picture, you, books, it's beautiful. It's for you to take with you. We'll send it to you, but it's an invitation to perhaps mark the night with a picture of yourself in a beautiful setting like the Yale Club. I want to thank Rob and Greg, Marta, and Barbara for kicking off our conversation about communications. We at Letters, we don't claim to have it right yet, but I can tell you there are fewer startups I've ever been a part of that have been into a timing of a marketplace so desperate for a non-linear concept. And Letters is non-linear, and we like it that way. So William, if you come introduce the brand.